Calaroga Shark Media. Hello and welcome to Murder Weekly. This episode is titled Death in the Desert.
The sun beat down mercilessly on the rugged landscape of Joshua Tree National Park, its harsh rays casting long shadows across the twisted branches of the park's namesake trees. The air was dry and hot, the silence broken only by the occasional gust of wind that stirred up the sand and sent it swirling in intricate patterns across the desert floor. It was amidst this unforgiving terrain that the body was found, sprawled beneath the eerie formation known as Skull Rock. The towering granite boulder, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, loomed over the scene like a macabre sentinel, its gaping eye sockets seeming to stare down at the lifeless form below. Detective Samantha Sam Parker stepped out of her car, the heat hitting her like a physical force. She shielded her eyes against the glare, taking in the stark beauty of the landscape before her. The Joshua trees stretched out in every direction, their twisted branches reaching towards the sky like tortured souls frozen in time. As she approached the crime scene, the buzz of activity grew louder. CSI techs in white protective suits moved methodically around the body, their cameras flashing as they documented every detail. The victim, a young man in his early 20s, lay face down in the sand, his hiking gear scattered around him like the discarded props of a forgotten play. "What have we got?" Sam asked, crouching down beside the body. The victim's skin was pale, almost translucent in the harsh desert light, his eyes staring blankly at the unforgiving sky above. "Male, mid-20s, no ID on him," the lead CSI tech replied, handing Sam a pair of latex gloves. "Cause of death looks to be blunt force trauma to the back of the head. We found a rock nearby with blood on it, likely the murder weapon." Sam nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding area. The ground was scuffed and disturbed, indicating a struggle. She could almost picture it in her mind's eye. The victim, out for a hike in the early morning hours, stumbling upon something he wasn't meant to see. A confrontation, a chase, a desperate fight for survival that ended here, beneath the uncaring gaze of Skull Rock. She stood up, dusting off her hands. "Any witnesses? This is a popular hiking spot. Someone must have seen something." The tech shook his head. "Not that we know of. Park rangers didn't notice anything unusual on their rounds, and no other hikers have come forward yet." Sam sighed, squinting up at the sun as it climbed higher in the sky. This was going to be a tough one. A murder in the middle of nowhere with no witnesses and no apparent motive. But she was determined to find the truth, to bring justice to the young man whose life had been cut short in this unforgiving place. As the day wore on, Sam and her team combed the area for clues. They found a set of tire tracks leading away from the scene, indicating that the killer had likely driven there. But the tracks disappeared onto the main road, lost among the hundreds of other vehicles that passed through the park every day. They interviewed the few hikers who had been in the area that morning, but no one had seen or heard anything suspicious. The victim, it seemed, had been alone in his final moments, his cries for help swallowed up by the vast expanse of the desert. It wasn't until they delved into the victim's background that they finally caught a break. His name was Ethan Donahue, a 24-year-old graduate student at the nearby University of California, Riverside. He had been studying the unique ecosystem of Joshua Tree, spending long hours in the park conducting research for his thesis. But as Sam dug deeper, she discovered that Ethan had been hiding a secret. He had stumbled upon evidence of an illegal poaching operation within the park, a ruthless group of hunters who were killing the park's iconic bighorn sheep for their horns and hides. Ethan had been gathering evidence to take to the authorities, but it seemed that the poachers had discovered his intentions, and now he had paid the ultimate price for his bravery. The breakthrough came when a park ranger found a discarded cigarette butt near the crime scene, a brand that was not sold in any of the park's gift shops or vending machines. DNA analysis matched it to a known poacher named Travis Denton, a man with a violent criminal history and a reputation for brutality. Sam and her team moved in swiftly, catching Travis at his remote cabin on the outskirts of the park. He resisted arrest, fighting like a cornered animal, but in the end, he was no match for the determined detectives. In the interrogation room, Travis's defiance crumbled, his tough exterior giving way to a man haunted by his own actions. He confessed to killing Ethan, revealing the location of the poaching operation's hideout and naming his accomplices. As the sun set over Joshua Tree that evening, Sam stood once again beneath the gaze of Skull Rock, the wind whipping at her hair as she looked out over the vast expanse of the desert. The case was closed. Justice had been served, but the weight of Ethan's loss still hung heavy on her heart. She thought of the young man's passion for this harsh and unforgiving place, of his determination to protect it from those who would do it harm. In a way, she felt a kinship with him, a shared love for the untamed beauty of the natural world, and a fierce desire to defend it against all odds. As the last light of day faded from the sky, Sam made a silent promise to Ethan, to all the victims whose voices had been silenced by violence and greed. She would keep fighting, keep seeking the truth no matter where the journey took her, because in the end that was all any of them could do. Stand tall in the face of darkness and never let the light of justice be extinguished.
Murder Weekly is a Calaroga Shark media production, written and hosted by Aidan I. Flanagan, produced by Mark Francis, executive producers Mark Francis and John McDermott. Portions of this podcast may have been created with the assistance of AI. Calaroga Shark Media.